Well, let's recap what we've seen so far. Remember, we're looking in the garden for dormancy. We started our programs in the last 3 tapes with notify ground crew, dormant. Looks dormant, acts dormant, everybody agrees that's dormant. Then we have lost in space, which is looking like a semi-evergreen. And then we have our evergreen foliage. 3 examples, that's what it looks like February 20th. One of the problems is in the definition that it's supposed to show this regardless of climate. So in my garden I've shown that you might have to wait till late February before you see it show its true plant habit. And this year is the 3rd coldest year in recorded history for January and February. So if they're going to react dormant, we'll see it this year. But some of these plants will go through the winter and never show its dormancy. So that's one of our difficult things. Why is it so difficult to determine plant habit? Well, in the south, like I said, they might show their plant habit late or at all. And if for registrations, those are due November 1st, and so there's a possibility of inaccuracy because the data is being called for before the plants have a chance to react. Also, I showed examples of Bella Lugosi. It was lined out late and it appeared to be dormant and it wasn't. And several things were happening there. One was on the really cold days, it actually was physically burning the foliage off. But also, because the plant was lined out late, it was busy growing roots and decided not to grow any foliage. And a third thing is the temperatures were cool enough that it reduced plant growth just because of the cool temperature. And the temperatures are continuing to be cool. We had like 4 frosts over the last 5 mornings. And then another way a plant might be called as a dormant is it's growing really poorly. You know, I got a question. Is a plant a poor grower in the south because it's dormant, or is it just a poor grower? Though we don't know that. But I do know if somebody's having a problem growing a plant in the south and it has very little growth, and that's synonymous with dormancy, dig it up. And if you find that the corm itself is, you know, 1 inch deeper, that's probably why the plant's not growing well. And so planting too deep might make a plant look like a dormant. Okay, but let's ask the really hard question. You know, there's the examples. I gave you some insight into why it might be called a dormant and it isn't. I've shown you that you can grow dormants in a Florida garden. Here they are. That's not to say that all dormants will grow in my garden, but why do I care if a daylily is a dormant? That is the important question. In the north, in the fall, the dormant foliage is ugly. It will drop its foliage early before frost comes in and takes the foliage away. So I've heard some hybridizers, some growers talk about that they like the evergreens because they stay green right up until snow, where the dormants give up, some of them. Okay. In the fall up north, you know, that green, and I'm all about green. I love green. Give me this. You know, give me lots of it. That's what I like. So in the south, what is the dormants doing? Well, they also are giving up their foliage. As you saw in the photo, especially the first one, that this plant was really tall as this one was starting to go down, and you saw all the ugly brown foliage. Well, this one was still pretty green. It's kind of stayed green. Now, I've gone in there and cleaned them up and getting ready for the bloom season, because who wants dead foliage in the garden? But another problem about growing dormants in the south is it allows weeds to grow. If you grow daylilies, you know that they're tough customers. Unless they run across something bigger than them, like a shrub or a tree, they're pretty good about keeping the weeds down around them. And even worse is, if you have dormants near the semi-evergreens and evergreens, they can actually get crowded out and look crappy in the spring. So not only are dormants, they give up their foliage in the south, but they can be choked out. Where the evergreens in the spring, and we're early spring, boy, those are beautiful. There's nobody that would argue that with me. But in the spring up north, the dormants can be very beautiful. And that's why we started out this whole program with the first line in part 1, where the dormancy can be a prize behavior in the north, where they actually think that there's no wasted energy in the plant because it keeps trying to grow every time it gets warm. So when it's in this condition, it's safe, it's happy, and in a lot of cases it's increasing. I do not like to line out dormants in the late winter just for that reason. And what evergreens look like in the north in the springtime, well, some have described it as dog puke. Excuse my grossness, but it gets so matted over with material that has been frozen and then just dries into a mass that some people are forced to come in with a knife and cut that foliage off, or it keeps other foliage to go out through it, because once in that frozen mass of cellulose starts to dry, it makes a thick mat. So people in the north see that and they're not happy. So there you have it. That's my info that I have on dormancy, and I thank for all the people that have helped me out and explain what they saw and how they feel about dormancy. So visit a daylily garden soon, and remember, bloom is only 3 months away.